Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you say hello and where you're joining from when you join. Also, if you can let me know that you can hear me, you can throw it in the chat section. I want to make sure, let's see, that Dr. David is able to join. All right, so I see 11 out of 21. Christina, Nicole, Tessa, Natalie, Jamie, Maria, Sean, Natalie, and Carla. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you. So, Dr. David, if you click in the upper left-hand corner, there is, hey, there you are. So then there's a microphone. You got to click that. And then across the top, there's a thing that looks like the phone. Oh, wait, stop.
Hello. Yay!
Yay, we did it. We did it. I'm so excited. The last time I tried to use webinar on Friday, it was a big failure. So I'm thankful for training. So all of you, welcome. We do have the chat section open. Natalie said I can hear you. I'm in Connecticut. Tessa's in Ohio. Carla, Illinois. Awesome. Great to see all of you. And please, at any time, throw your comment section in there. If you don't want everyone to see it, but you still want to ask it and you only want me to see it, then what you can do is you can say send to admin only. And then that way you can feel confident that you'll be able to have your questions answered without, I get it. Sometimes it feels like, I don't want to ask that question. I sure already know the answer. I don't believe that. And I want to make sure that I answer your questions. I know Dr. David does too. So welcome to all of you. We are here in 100% support of each one of you and to tell you you're doing a great job. We know that this is a crazy time. Both of us have been doing this for decades and we've never seen anything like this. So if you're feeling nervous, we get it. And that's why we're coming to you live. So welcome, Dr. David.
Well, listen, I don't want to sound like we're too wise and too old at the same time, but I have to share with you that exactly that these are unprecedented times, but at the same time, we've got this. This is one of those where I think the wisdom of having experience is going to hopefully shed a little bit of certainty and hopefully a sense of confidence. And I just want to thank you for bringing your tribe into this message and for inviting myself, and I think Brock might even be on here. And we want to help build some of that confidence up. I know that you've got some great ideas as to how we can share some really practical advice. I know I've been working with our side of the equation, getting some inspirational leadership concepts out there, but it also now is coming down to the fact that we need concrete, action steps that are going to support next steps for each of our team. And Barb, just before we go with it, I concur with exactly what you said. We're here for you. We've reached out to individual New Start doctors and reminded them that, when it comes down to working with them over the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to make that happen. We're not going to leave anybody behind. When it comes down to it, everybody is going to get taken care of because we all matter, but in so many ways we matter more than anything. So thank you again for bringing this forum together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to encourage all of you, don't isolate. No. Don't isolate from this community. Don't isolate from, if you're afraid, ask for help. I'll be the first to admit I had a total meltdown last night. And, thankfully, how God works in marriages, like one of you strong when the other one is like slipping and vice versa. And so, Ben was strong and helped me just like, kind of like, it's all right, babe. Like, it's all right. Like, I think as chiropractors too, our minds are so like, this doesn't make sense. Like the human body is so strong. And so then we start going like, wait, why isn't everyone else getting this? Like, the human body is strong. And I think part of the challenge becomes that the hysteria is in such opposition to our philosophy that becomes really abrasive and it's scary. So David, can we start, let's start right at a neurological basis.
Sure.
And if you were, hey, Brock, jump in at any time, Brock, with your comments, and I'll try and pop you in. If you were Maria, if you were Natalie, if you were Tessa, if you were Carla, if you were Sean, if you were one of these docs right now, and you were just told, you've got until tomorrow to be adjusting your practice members, and they're asking you questions of, Dr. Fletcher, how are my adjustments helping me? Can you share what would you say from like that experience and fatherly wisdom standpoint?
Well, I would talk to them in the most reassuring way to say that, your body was innately built powerful. It's powerfully innate. That was the first comment, is that although this is new to everyone, you were designed to resist and adapt. And the way that you resist and adapt is through your nervous system. In other words, how you function is completely related to how much reserve and health you have in your nervous system. And so two things you need to know is very clearly that your immune response is directly tied to how much stress you can handle. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second is that chiropractic boosts the response within the nervous system. It gives the nerve, and to put it very simply, it gives back the horsepower to the nervous system. And I was looking up in anticipation of this call today, and I was thinking, what would be really satisfying to know for sure? Because one of the things that we know is that for decades now, CLA has always put forward the message to use chiropractic's message build through the nervous system. So I took a look, and I found last week I found an article that was directly tied to stress as it relates to disease production. Mm-hmm. So there's this, on the dark side is that if you don't have an adaptive response, if you don't have the ability to resist, then you are prone to developing diseases. And there's a very, very succinct and very, natural progression that goes from living in that stress model. So that's the number one thing. Number two, you might say, well, how does that happen? Well, when we get stressed, we activate naturally and phylogenetically is the term, through our gene pool, this response to be sympathetic dominant. That's what we're supposed to do. The trouble is we're supposed to modify that with our parasympathetics. We're supposed to blunt that runaway train, which is our sympathetic dominance, by pulling us back in with the action of the vagal brake. And so one of the things that we know is that sympathetic dominant, when you lock out there, you become immune suppressed. So that I pulled another paper that talks about the sympathetic dominant response being an immune suppressive responsiveness. It's a very detailed paper, and I'll send the abstract, and I'll send the abstract of the first disease model. And the third point I want to make is that you can monitor that at this critical time when fear is rampant and people have no sense that they're making good choices. You can give them a grounding point and say, we have the technologies in place, we have the certainty in place to be able to either identify if you're more at risk, or more importantly, if we can help you move towards a safer place. And that's it.
I love that. And does everyone see, like, it's, I think of it like a recipe. When there's an order to a recipe, like add your eggs. Like I made banana bread the other day, and I learned as a young baker, you can't just put it all in a pot. Like there's certain steps and there's certain blendings and there all of that if you really want a great response. And so in my mind, as we're teaching our practice members, it's to start with the big, get agreement on that. Then once we have agreement on that, build the next level, have agreement there, then build the next level, right? So we went big in terms of, would you agree that the nerve system control is the master control system of your body? And as we're talking to our practice members, whether on a Facebook Live, or I hope you all are doing Zoom or in some way connecting with your people, like get with them on each level. And And even if you've taught it to them 100 times, they're in stress mode. I've yet to see somebody who is smarter when they're stressed. Like, I don't make better decisions when I'm stressed, right? And I think it's so important in that you bring it to light with them too. Like, and even ask them, hey, let me ask you something. When you're stressed, do you find like that's when you're the most optimistic? Like, that's when you feel the best. That's when you make the best decision. That's when like all of your awesome personality flaws, those are definitely suppressed when you're stressed.
No.
No. Right? Like, they all come out. And so I think that the important thing here is that repetition, and to go through and remind them these are the things we know to be true. These are non-disputable facts. So in a storm of uncertainty, we go back to, what do we know for sure? Right? What do we know for sure? Go ahead.
Well, I think that brings up this really important thing of defining what you are an expert of. I have to tell you that I am not an expert in epidemiology, and I am not an expert in looking at infectious diseases. That is not my expertise. Do I know enough about them to make informed decisions? Sure. We act in that trusted advisorship. But what I am an expert with is understanding the relationship of chiropractic as it relates to the subluxation, as it relates to stress on the nervous system, as it relates to the empowerment of the human being. That I am an expert in. And, I think that where chiropractors have gotten themselves into some challenges in public media, again, with their boards and otherwise, is making a blanket statement that says chiropractic boosts the immune response. And chiropractic does not boost the immune response. Chiropractic removes interference from the nervous system, and a healthy nervous system organizing their immune responsiveness is a consequence of that. Mm-hmm. But we can't come out and say that an adjustment specifically boosts the immune. It arouses innate, and the innate responsiveness is associated with a global experience of that person finding better adaptive reserve, their better coherence within their system. I can tell you right now that of course it boosts the immune response, but don't put that in writing, because that's not our intent. Our intent isn't to fix sore backs or to boost immunity. Our intent is to remove nerve interference and check and make sure that that is continuing. And that's the safe way to handle that.
And I think with, like, stay in our lane too of what is the impact of the chiropractic adjustment with the sympathetic nerve system? What is the impact of the chiropractic adjustment
Absolutely.
with parasympathetic? Like, our human body is really smart. It wants to be balanced, right? It wants to be in wine or dine. It's not designed to just be stress, 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 stress. I also think at this time, when people are self-quarantined, there's another element too, that they're not able to run their normal systems, right? And for the most part, families are on high gear. They wake up in the morning. It's like they're going like bats out of hell, right? Like, race to school, race to daycare, race to work, but like go all out all day, then pick your kids up, run through the drive-through, do this appointment, do that appointment, go to this practice, go to that appointment, come home, and then just, die and get up and do it all over again. So now everyone's home, and this is all new. So now they're having to actually learn new ways as families to even operate with one another. And I firmly believe that there's another element of emotional stress coming in at this time called guilt. That as families, now you have your kids around you all the time, and you feel guilty because it's like, man, they just, like, I say all the time I want to be with them, but they're driving me absolutely crazy. And I say I want to be with my spouse, or I say I want to be home all the time, but oh my gosh, can we please go back to normal life? And I think that there's an element of guilt that sets in, that let's be the profession that talks about it and says, like, I get it. Like, this isn't your norm. Like, most of the time when families are together, there's a huge distraction. And if they are together, it's for holidays, distraction, or it's for vacation, distraction. It's not doing everyday life, weekend, week out, weekend, week out. And so now there's a whole new cascade of stress that they haven't really created a game plan, a strategy for, and then even to think it makes you feel guilty. And oh, I'm a loser. You know what I mean? Like go ahead.
No, it's exactly that. And you know, this refereeing with the kids and all the rest of that. I mean, shoot me if this is retirement, right? This whole dream of, you know, not working. Well, you got it right now. But the realities are that every time we are confronted with this crisis, there is opportunity. You know, it's riding this wild pendulum. And as a result of that, you know, right now this pendulum is really weird. Like it's way swung out of sync. Like the entire planet is out of sync, right? The culture of us. And so, you know, what's going to balance it out is exactly the opposite, which is optimistic opportunism. And I don't mean about preying upon people or anything else. I'm talking about common, peaceful resources. And that's where chiropractic is better than anything else that I've seen. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, you know, the temperament of who chooses to be a chiropractor starts this healing process. And the next thing is that we apply an inside out approach versus an outside in approach. That's healing. And then we do it through the lens of certainty. I mean, this is really good. I did a quick poll, and I hope that this is where our clients, notice I say that, Barb, about your team and ours, but I hope that that's where you know, the 56 days are hanging in there. We have clients in Minnesota that and some in Illinois, even though Illinois is pretty much getting shut down now, that they're only down about 15 or 20%. In other words, they're finding very innovative ways to really work on an individual basis, to sanitize, to do whatever it takes. I mean, there's a million of those good solutions. What I'm going to add to that is that you can reach out in so many different ways. As you said, get on the Zoom, get on the phone, get in front of people, phone them up, you know, hey, listen, you know, send them a message and indicate to them that, you know, whether it's appropriate now or whether it's appropriate when we get back on stream, I want to check your stress levels. I want to see if there has been, and this is a beautiful line, I want to see if your nervous system has been stained from all the stress that you've been under. On the other hand, I also want to tell you how you're coping. So those are two really great language hooks to use. You want to talk about the stain of stress on your nervous system, and I want to check your coping reserve or your adaptive reserve, however you want to say it. And when you use tools, and I'll get Brock to jump in and talk a little bit about it, but when you use tools like heart rate variability and you use, say, a thermal scanner on infants, it detects instantly these stress reactions, stress points. And look, chiropractors have been at the leading edge and the forefront of looking at neurology under stress since 1924. You know, that's when the first thermal scanning began. And it's progressed to where we now have these beautiful, you know, we can run a neural scan looking for sympathetic stress on the spinal nerves in under 20 seconds. Like it, you know, that's a thermal scan takes 20 seconds to run. And it's accurate, like ridiculously accurate. An HRV test, and it takes anywhere from 2 minutes in kids to 3 minutes in adults. And you know, we have ear clips that have on the newborns. So the realities is that no one is left behind when we go to give them the certainty. And instead of the fear, Barb, that they are living under, you've now created a window of interest and hope. And that is healing, is breaking this dominant fear pattern. I mean, shut CNN off. You know, shut the 24-hour news off. By all means, don't look at MSNBC. That's treacherous. But, you know, just stay away from things that are going to harm you. Do whatever you can for the kids. But when you, as the chiropractor, have the opportunity to build that trust bond to the next level, invite them in bigger and bigger. So that's what I wanted to say. And I don't know if now is the right time, but I wanted to introduce Brock to some of the team members, whether it was to send a message that he's sending to you or I don't know. I don't think he can talk. I think he can just chat, right?
Yeah, I'm going to figure that out. I have to say something though.
Yeah, please.
So, all right. So here's the idea I came up with. I'm so excited.
Oh, good. I love great ideas.
All right. So let's say, all right. So number one, if your office hasn't been shut down yet because of regulations in your state and you're following all of the guidelines to protect yourself and the public and you're open,
yes.
Please hear me say this. Please do not be open if you are not following the guidelines. You must,
Absolutely.
you must,
100%.
you must follow the guidelines. All right. So with that being said, if you are in that situation and still able to serve and you have CLA's technology, yes, I would have a staff member who's doing nothing but cleaning. I would also have a staff member who's doing nothing but calling practice members to say, hey, I'm calling on behalf of Dr. Barb. We know everyone is at a heightened state of stress, and we want to see and offer you the opportunity for you and your family to know for sure if your nerve system has been stained by this additional stress that we're all under. So what we're doing is we're scheduling checkups for you so that you know for sure how well your nerve system and your immune system are functioning. It's kind of like knowing for sure, is the SWAT team ready to go?
Nice.
Knowing for sure, is my alarm system on? I just left my house. So that's what we're offering right now. How many people in your family would like to come in for a checkup today? We have 2:30 and 3, which is best for you. So if you're open and you're taking the right measures to protect yourself and public health, please do this. Here's the next one. If you're closed, this is what I would do. I would literally take all of my files and I would spread them out with my team. And I would literally pick up the phone. Hey, this is Dr. Barb, chiropractor. I'm calling to check in on you and your family. Tell me something good today. I wouldn't say, how are you? Tell me something good. Oh, it's just really depressing. All right, cool. Like, can I give you a really easy, like just super quick thing for you and your family to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic that you can lead on? They'll be like, yeah, sure. All right, great. We're going to do 3 breaths in and out real deep. And I know you've been breathing all day long, but I'm going to teach you a new way. And the consciousness I want you to have is I want you to think of your lungs like a balloon. So when we breathe out, I want you to keep exhaling to get all of that old, stale, stressed out air out of your lungs. Okay. So here we go. And I want you to do this with your family. So then do 3 breaths in and out. And then I would also say, so look, before I called you, I picked up your file. And the last time that you were scanned was in January. And in January, you were showing like danger zones at C2, T6, and L3. So when we're under more stress like that typically what happens are weaknesses come out. So I'd like to go through with you just real quickly, what are those areas attached to from a nerve supply? What are the most common symptoms? And what can you do now before you come in for a checkup as soon as we're open again? Would that be okay with you? And then go through and give them the very specific things that they can do that are relevant to them. And say, David, you know what? This is why I wish so badly I had checked your whole family, because right now I would know what their weaknesses are in their nerve system, and I would be able to give you specific steps for them. Right now, the best thing is breathe with them, make sure they're hydrated, all of those like 7 essential steps. And then let's make sure as soon as I open that they're in for their schedule so they can be under regular chiropractic care. So what I'm offering as well is an opportunity to do their health history with you as a consultation on Zoom. It's a video call. So we got that ready to go. So as soon as the green light opens for me to be open, your family's in, and now we're all on the same page moving forward. How does that sound to you?
Oh, it sounds amazing to me. You know what? I have to share with you that was perfectly dialogued. This is exactly what you want to do, because I think I use the idea of the pendulum. If we can push the pendulum towards us instead of hanging out on the opposite side of where it is in crisis and move it towards opportunity, that means that when the doors open again, whenever that is, there are people waiting to participate. And this is this whole idea of setting in motion, priming the pump, so that then the next call after that isn't would you like to, it's more like when can I get you in my busy schedule. And look, the people in our community love us, and they don't know how much they love us. And that's what you're going to be telling them. And if somebody called me up as not as a doctor, but as a trusted advisor and a friend, as somebody who is friendly from the team, and offered some really practical advice. The 3 breaths is beautiful. And just so everybody knows here, when we do deep breathing, we activate something called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And it's a very slight little hiccup in our model. And that's what's something that creates a little bit of variability. And variability, as in heart rate variability, is the nudge for the body to recenter itself. It's almost like a stone in your shoe. You need to, once it shifts, you kind of go, oh, I got a little bit of a stone in my shoe. Let me adapt. And the minute that innate gets the response to say, I need to adapt, it opens up and fires the parasympathetics more actively. And so by having 3 deep breaths like that, you activate vagal tone. And vagal tonality is directly related with this sense of ease, or they call it coherence in physics, but this sense of ease, we call it in chiropractic. And there's some really interesting dynamic here, because some of the most formative papers that were written on HRV were originally done in the cardiology model, but they actually were mostly used in social sciences. And so there was a series of papers by Stephen Porges who talked about how social determinants of well-being are associated with how calm a person is as measured by HRV. And so when society itself is completely out of sync, which is where we're seeing it, 2 things happen. Number one, the heart, this is kind of really cool. The heart, which is this independent beating, smooth muscle process, actually through the vagal nerve, ties into facial striated nerves. And so people facially act stressed out. And when you are in front of somebody who is stressed out, it causes them to act in a very defensive mechanism. So your stress triggers stress in the next person. It's like the Revlon commercial. One person tells 10 people, tells 10 people, tells 10 people. And so one person being out of control stress-wise in front of others triggers a social phenomenon. So this whole idea of absolutely taking an adjusted person and putting them into a room and watching the rest of the room calm down, that's actually a physics trait called entrainment. And so when we entrain ourselves to this coherent state, we actually begin to entrain a radius of experiences all around us. So that's the kind of difference that you made right there by just telling somebody to breathe.
That is so awesome. I love that. So are all of you going to speak as eloquently as Dr. David just did, or even how I did, not as eloquently? No, probably not. But you can get started, and you can do it for sure. And 100%, it's better than not doing it. And your practice members will be so appreciative and so thankful. So if I can, let me give you just a couple other steps in order to, so remember, there are 3 requirements of a leader. We must cast vision, we must create culture, and we must hold accountable. Cast vision. And so I've been explaining it to all of you, and I know I sound like a broken record, and that's okay, because that's the first law of learning, is repetition. So casting vision is, see in your mind, you're casting from here to December 31st with a huge tent. And all of your strategies are the poles and the ropes that are keeping that tent up, right? And then under the tent, we create our culture, and under the tent, we hold accountable. So when we're casting vision, the other thing I love about this exercise of connecting with your practice members is that we're never going to think our way out of fear, ever. You're going to act your way out of fear, right? Like, all right, so all of you know I live in Alaska. If there was a brownie right there in my driveway and I'm walking with my dog and I just stand there and think about it, that is not going to change the situation. I promise you. I better have already thought about it, and now I'm ready to act, right? So action cures fear. So when you're picking up the phone and talking to your practice members, your mind is engaging with the vision of the tent and December 31st. That maybe right now I'm not seeing everyone, but if I set it up right, I'm actually going to grow because of the action I'm taking now. That if If this thing hadn't happened, you would not be on the phone with your practice members in this way. You probably wouldn't be asking for as many referrals. You probably wouldn't have the justification as strong as it is to say, we need to get your family checked. As soon as I open up, let's do a consult now. So we have that taken care of. Like, I'm taking reservations for the day I open up. Do you want one of my best spots? You're on the top of my list to call. And please don't say it if you don't mean it, but I think we all mean it. I think we all truly mean, like, it's going to be go time again, and I am ready. I got to meet Tim Grover, the author of Relentless, at the 10X Ladies event. And one of the stories in his book, Relentless, that really sticks with me is when he was talking about when the NBA was on strike, and most of those overpaid celebrities were just chilling out. They're taking vacations, partying. But you know who was in the gym still 3 times a day? The best, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Still there. As if it's go time tomorrow. So I let David and I be the first to tell you, or the next, the ones to remind you, act as if tomorrow you're opening up. And because you're opening up tomorrow, what are you doing today to serve your community and have a full schedule tomorrow? And then tomorrow, I want you to act as if the next day you're opening up. And then the next day is if tomorrow, the next day is go time. And if you can adopt that, I'm pretty confident you're going to have the best year of your life. Throw the tent, cast vision, create culture, you and your team, and then hold accountable. Boy, that was a long one.
No, I love those 3 steps. The theories of leadership are so profoundly useful at this time. But you can get lost in many, many different directions. But those 3 points right there are so succinct. And the visual of the tent with the poles and the ropes is so profound. And what I saw when I did that was all this open space that was undercover and protected, which means that's my vision, my culture. It's so big. I don't know how big your tent was, but mine was pretty friggin' big when I heard that.
It had a satellite right at the top of it in the stratosphere.
Exactly. It's like, boom. I love that. I absolutely love it. So I think that what
you said there too, David, it's protection. Like, I'm protecting my people. Like, as a leader, I'm coming over with these new policies that I have in place. I will protect you. It's okay. I got you. I got you. We're solid. And just keep, that is great. Be ready. Yeah, be ready, because you know what? You won't live in fear when you're ready. You won't live in fear when you're ready. So if you're fearful, call more. When you're in doubt, reach out more. And it's not busy work. Like, we've given you a very succinct plan here. A very succinct plan. Pick up the phone. Now, what if you're like, all right, so I want to just double back again. So you're scheduling these appointments with your referrals. They complete their paperwork. They get it back to you within 24 hours, unless it's the weekend. You're going to get on Zoom. There's a free way to use Zoom. The great thing about it is you can record it and you can go back and look at yourself and practice and really get some great insights as to, like David was just saying, look at your own face. Look at your own countenance. If they say something and your face changes and you're stressful, you're now triggering stress in them, right? So this is another great way for us to practice. Make sure you tell them at the beginning, for training purposes and to make sure I don't miss a single detail that you tell me, I'll record this with your permission. Is that okay? And make sure that as soon as they say yes, you hit record and just say, this is Dr. Barbara Eaton. This is David Fletcher. Today is March the 23rd. I've received his permission to record this consultation. So then you go through your consultation like you would in your office. And then if it were me, I would take a merit chart and I would just highlight the symptoms that they said. And then I would go ahead and give them like tips from that merit chart, right? And tell them, look, I've got you at the top of the list. You're like first on the reservation list. Congratulations. All right. So then there was one other thing that you said to double back. So what if you're like, yeah, but I don't have CLA's technology. Well, that sucks. But let's talk about David and Brock. How do we make that happen?
Well, I think that first off, I think that in 2020 we have to have the tools and resources to future-proof our practice. I think that there's I always used in my practice a combination of what was on the table for an examination, what was an X-ray as needed, and then what we would do is have the insight, which is the CLA technology. Look, when we future-proof a practice, I can tell you this, Barb, that again we started with this idea of a little bit of long history of working with this. It's not like this is new. Chiropractic stress in the nervous system has been around from the day it started, but it lost its way. And now there's going to be a renaissance of people moving back to the nervous system as the adjustments are going to be produced. It's not going to be pain nervous system, it's going to be functioning nervous system. So I think that anybody who's sitting there without necessarily the tools right now will want to future-proof their practice towards moving to where it's going to go. I can promise you that this COVID is going to push everybody to this idea of boosting immune responsiveness. Because what they found out also at the exact time of what their fears were is that they had no medical parachute. There is no medical parachute for this problem. It was everything we've talked about. And I'm not going to be smug about it because the world's in a bit of a pickle right now. But the reality is that we need to be able to, with confidence, certainty, and with reliability, be able to measure that deeper sensations that are not sensations at all, which are the realities of the nervous system. So for those of you who don't have the technology, you need to get in touch. We have the best team on the world, and one of them's on the call right now, and I don't know how to get to him, but anyhow, his name is Brock Brascho. He's been with us for 30 years. And the reality is that he's going to put together an amazing response to anything. So we've negotiated with our finance partners a 90-day deferral so that they could start scanning tomorrow and not have any payments for 90 days. That can stretch, with a small fee right up to 180 days, which is amazing. So they have gone out of their way. The three significant lenders that we work with have gone out of their way to work with us because we have such a positive history with them. The second is that we're going to make sure that everyone has the opportunity, price point wise, and we even have the ability at times to in-house finance if your credit rating hasn't been, well managed or because of this or otherwise. We're going to make sure that we can fund you in-house as well. So we're going to take care of you one way or the other. We're going to make it real for you. And then there's the pricing that was offered at the event which you put on, Barb, which were discounted prices to begin the process. Those are going to be extended for as long as the 56-day boot campers need it. So you've got everything going in your direction.
Thank you. And for all of you, I just heard in the US our SBA is at 3.6.
Yes.
Our reports that it's supposed to drop even lower. So David, if they did the 90-day deferment with you right now, and then SBA dropped to 0%, they could then get the SBA loan, pay this off, and do the 0.
Pay that off and then go with that. Yep.
So the important,
and then we'd have 0%.
And is it something that so let's say I didn't have the technology, which all of you, it was one of the things that I bought prior to opening my practice.
Yep.
I had zero money. I had a massive loan, and it was more important to me to have that technology than a really nice table. Like I adjusted on a portable table while I earned my way to a table, but I started scanning with the substation before I opened my practice.
Me too.
I can't think of the lady's name. I even hired a lady through, I think it was either CLA or Dave Major, to come and teach me how to scan because I had no idea. And she helped me do a screening.
Okay.
Yeah, remember that when that was, that was the 90s. But at any rate, so Brock, if they bought it today and now practice is closed, so it's a great time to be learning, is it such that there's trainings going on and they can learn distance learning how to at least start moving forward with the technology? He can't answer. He'll have to.
I can't.
Yeah, go
If Brock can't answer, and I wish he could, because he's the master at this. I really, working with Brock is really special. But yeah, we actually have been for a number of years developing online trainings through video and the ability to connect directly with clients.
Okay.
Part of part of the super skills that Brock has is that he actually works directly with the client himself, so that he makes sure that they are up to speed after they've done their own personal trainings. So we began this conversation that sort of said, we're not going to leave anybody behind, but that doesn't stop at the sale. That means that once you're in the CLA family, and Barb, you know this, and I think many of your members know it, we really support everybody from academic responses to practical responses to, hugs and fatherly responses and motherly responses. So, we exist for one reason, and that's to develop excellence within chiropractors. And at times like this, we align with the best, which is Barb and her team, and together we make a big difference in this world. Like, that's the way it has to be.
I agree. And if you're on still and you're in the boot camp, this is why there are only certain people who get in as content creators and leaders, because I know, and it's happened many times in the boot camp, I'll see one of you post something about technology or a question, and I literally get in touch with David, and within 2 minutes, he's like, yep, we're on it, or I'm reaching out, or I'm going to help, or just amazing customer service. And if you've had a bad experience in the past, please reach out to David, because my guess, it was old, and perhaps not with CLA 2.0. There, right?
Yeah, listen, one of the things that happened in the early days was, number one, there weren't great training opportunities like we have now, which is online. And number two, people over committed their responses to it, and they couldn't keep up with all of the necessities that are involved in organizing around it. And what that means is you need to have the support of your staff. You need to have, you need to make sure your staff are not trained, but buying into why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Because, it does take an extra moment to make sure that that the conversation times are booked. You can just do a scan and kind of say, well, it's, you're sick or you're not sick. That's not what it's for. It's exactly the opposite. Barb, I have to tell you, just as a funny thing, is that your logo behind you and your head is perfectly aligned on it. You look like you have a crown.
Oh, exactly.
either a crown or a halo. I can't.
It's both.
It's perfect. It's perfect. I'm not sure I'm supposed to wave like this to you now.
That's right. Or just now, whatever.
I love it. I love it.
And I want to say this. Like, I was really intentional about raising my kids to advocate for yourself. If somebody has offended you, or you haven't gotten the response you wanted, instead of just like taking your toys and playing somewhere else, like, reach out and then form your opinion, right? Because none of us, think about a practice member who leaves your practice and you wonder, like, why did they leave? And then you later find out that it was because, I don't know, you put the toilet paper roll on backwards. We all know there are times that people can be fickle, right? And you're like, hey, if you would have just told me, I would have flipped it around. Like, I'm not attached if it's under or over. But they didn't tell you to make it right. And so I encourage all of you, whether it's boot camp or it's CLA or it's the bank or it's whatever, advocate for yourself. Always advocate and give people the opportunity to make it right, because you are of high worth, because you are of great value, and because we all know traumas, toxins, and thoughts, right, limit our body's ability to be well. So when we hold on to that stuff, it makes us sick. It makes us less able to adapt. And right now, especially, we got to have a high adaptability. So I just, please learn to advocate for yourself. And if you're raising children, please teach them. It's really important. And it doesn't mean we go around looking for who has made us upset. It means to know, like, I can create my future by teaching others how to treat me. And once I give them that chance, if they don't do it right, then okay, I'm done with you. But I can leave and I can go about my business in ease, not in stress. That's my opinion. That's my motherly talk for the day.
It's well, and before we leave, I think that if I could just build on that, is that, there's a lot of people within our profession who would be taking everything that we said today about this ability to talk to the nervous system and otherwise, and say that we were, antiquated and off mark. As crazy as that is, they want to keep chiropractic locked down into a pain-based model, structural only, and everything else. And they cloak themselves under this umbrella, which they refer to as evidence-based. And I want to share with everybody that every bit of the process that we discuss in here, whether it be, talking about the nervous system, immunity, the fact of stress, whatever else, is not conjecture. This is evidence-informed, evidence-based approach. And when you stand on that, you're bound to ruffle the feathers of the occasional person in your community or otherwise. But this is where you have to stand up. And I don't mean about, supporting what my vision is or Barb's vision is. It's about you. If you want to make a difference in people's lives beyond their pain and beyond their movement, and you want to change lives and not simply spine joints, then you have to look into the functioning nervous system. It's just what you have to do. And when you do that, it's invigorating to learn the power of chiropractic when you start to not look at just simply the history of it, but when you take a look at 2020 relationships between psychoneuroimmunology, the ability to look at immune function as it relates to functioning nervous systems and otherwise. We have led this path with our philosophy, with our science and our arts for a period of time that now finally, and perhaps this is the crisis that defines us, is that now finally the world is going to sit down and say, we need what you have. That's my prediction. I think that there are going to be more people that are searching for that something extra. And they're going to look to acupuncture, they're going to look to massage therapy, and they're going to look elsewhere. And this is our opportunity to say, wait, let me show you. And this is where branding yourself like you did when you graduated and you put your insight ahead of your subluxation station at that time, ahead of your table. And look, I'm not here to promote a product. I'm here to promote chiropractic. And the realities is that I see that the coherence that we can show using our technology is so profound that it will close that gap that people have, of trying to connect the hip bone to the universe. It's awkward. But when they see a picture, when they read a report, and I don't know where that came from, but when the realities are that, they get the aha moment, because we all did on this call, right? So we're just humans and the rest of it. And our practices are full of people that get what we talk about. Just make it easy on yourself and use a scan, use an insight scan.
Absolutely. And 100%. I know my confidence was high, even as a brand new doctor, because of the technology. Call it a crutch, call it whatever. I know I helped a ton of people, way more than if I hadn't had the technology. So it crutched me to massive amounts of success, and I'll take that any day over poverty
any day.
and under earning personally. So crutch away.
Absolutely.
Thank you to all of you. And Brock, thanks so much. I'll make sure that with this, I include contact information for Brock. Would you guys do me a favor? The very link that you used in order to register today is the link that somebody else can now be able to watch this.
Oh, nice.
I think that this is super helpful. So will you share it with your chiropractic friends? And I know I ask that all the time, because here's the deal. It's important. Like, don't isolate yourself as a chiropractor in your practice away from other chiropractors. And please don't think, oh, well, If they wanted it, they would have signed up. How do you know? Maybe they didn't see it. Maybe they're just waiting for you to reach out to them. So this is a time as well in that tent. Let's come together as chiropractors. Let's help one another. What if something that they learned today then changes the trajectory of their practice? And now instead of 2.38% of the population, they help move us to 2.5% of the population. Because, you know, it's going to take all of us, right? It's going to take all of us in order to create a massive ripple effect around the world. And we're doing the teaching, we're doing the promoting and stuff. I'm just asking that you do one little thing. Share the link. That's all that I'm asking, is that you contribute in that way to move the mark, to move the needle, and share the link. Any last minute words, David?
Well, no, I mean, obviously sharing is the biggest story that has to be out there, whether it's sharing your knowledge, sharing your space, obviously a little bit of social distancing as we're dealing with it right now. But in closing and imparting, I fell in love with chiropractic after I graduated, meaning that I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew that there was something special about it. But when I graduated and started to work with patients and when I had my practice, I started to realize that I was in a love affair with something that made such a difference. And I know that the people listening here are the same. And over the time, and it's conversations like this that sharpen the saw, that get you really cleaned up. And I hope fired up a bit about this idea of being part of a tribe that matters, meaning moving your message along with others. Your message about the tent and leadership was worth the price of admission. It was, and I mean that. It was genius to just get that visionary approach to where you want to build. Interestingly, my first coaching program that I did years and years ago was called the Ripple Effect, and it was FX, Ripple FX. But I think that just speaks to this coherence that you and I work with. I think that you and I fell in love with chiropractic. I think we adore each other's message. I think we adore each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that the reality is that together, we're just going to be that much stronger and better. And I love the idea of sharing. So let's get the sharing that's going on out there as well.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone. And do remember this, whether or not someone agrees with you does not change the validity of your message. Yes. Whether or not somebody agrees with you does not change the validity of their message. Remember, they're just coming from the programming that they've had that hasn't been the same experiences that you've learned. But when you stand in confidence and you don't try to prove other people wrong, but instead just share from your own experience, share from your own heart, if it's going to be, they'll be won over. And I'm telling you, it's consistency and love that makes the difference. So to all of you, God bless you. Have an awesome day. Don't isolate. Reach out to us. We will help you. I promise I will reach back if you reach out, but I don't have a magic ball to know that you need my help. So thank you so much, David. Thank you, Brock. And for all of you who joined us today, we love and appreciate you. Serve strong. See ya. Bye.
Bye, all.